Welcome to this week's installment of Ask Rabbi Fox. We have the joy this week of wondering about something that is on the heart of our member Bill Shafton this week, who is going to provide, and I don't know the question yet, provide a question that's going to give us a chance to wonder. It's my pleasure, my joy to be able to take a moment to think about it together. Bill, thank you so much for joining for this week's installment of Ask Rabbi Fox. What is the thing that you're wondering about this week?
Hello and thank you, Rabbi. Hello, Chevra. Today's question's really just kind of a softball. Really, ultimately, what do you think of when you're leading prayers and when you're reflecting on what the word God or Adonai means? What does that mean to you? Just a small question. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Small question of what does Adonai mean to me? Um, so I find prayer such a fascinating thing because the word God has so many different connotations to so many different people. In fact, I find at times when I'm having a conversation with somebody and they will use the word God, that I'm sometimes unclear about what it is exactly that they're describing. Now, we know that we have a rich tradition of not defining God. In fact, Maimonides famously said, I can't tell you what God is, I can only tell you what God is not. That said, I think that the myriad of ways that we look at theology, the myriad of ways that we kind of approach a higher power, provides so much space in our community that that it sometimes is difficult even to know, even in a broad sense, what it is that we're speaking about. I think that our liturgy really welcomes us into a deliberately open space to think about God. It has different ways throughout the entire liturgy that kind of asks the question of, this kind of relationship with the theology, or this kind of God, or this kind of connection to a higher power, and kind of opens us up to all these different places. So when I go through the liturgy, I try to kind of allow myself um, to reflect on all of those different ways of connecting with God. We talk about not necessarily knowing what God is or knowing exactly who God is, but rather having a sense of what our relationship with God is. In that story, that great story of a bunch of kids who are all blindfolded and they're all asked to describe the same thing, right? When the stories says that they're all blindfolded and told to describe an elephant, right? And one is holding the trunk and saying, "Oh, it's big and round," and another one is holding holding a leg and saying it's big and round. Another one is holding the trunk and saying, "No, no, it's small and it's moving." And another one is putting their hand on the side of the elephant and saying, "No, it's wide and broad and rough." That we're all approaching perhaps this same God, the same theology, but with such vastly different relationships and ways of connecting with God, that when I go through the liturgy, I try to remind myself and try to open myself to all those different places. Um, Trying to kind of balance where everyone else might be theologically and where I might be in that moment, which is different day to day. So yes, a small question of what do I think about Adonai? What do I think about God when I go through the liturgy? Is I try to allow myself to enter the way our tradition has said and shared different relationships with God, different relationships with a higher power. Um,
Yeah, as you were speaking, it struck me that our liturgy, either through a Shabbat service or a daily prayer service, has its own arc and almost like a path that helps kind of frame for us those moments of, all right, letting ourselves focus on the sacredness of our health, our well-being, our foundational matters, as well as our spiritual needs, and then sort of like opening ourselves up to whatever that notion of God is, if it's the most high, or and the various manifestations, as you so eloquently spoke to. And and beyond just the liturgies, you think about the 613 commandments or all the laws that is such a foundational aspect of our tradition. How do you then come to your own sense of balance between sort of like a textualist reading of this is the way things have been for thousands of years, and now we're in a position where we have to, I don't know, reimagine isn't the right word, but like uh, re-imbue or emulate or whatever, however that's going to be, like those prayers into this time, which is different from 100 years ago, much less 1,000 or multiple thousands of years in times past.
So in terms of the textual tradition, I received that as all of these approaches in the past. And it never ceases to amaze me that some of the questions that we ask today were asked 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago. And so the same way, and I also think very firmly that the best questions are the ones that they're not easy to answer. They're compelling in such a way that they draw us to them, but they refuse to give any kind of satisfying bow. There's no way to complete them. And so when I look to the textual tradition, I see all of these different ways that people have tried to answer this question throughout history. And they've offered this to us to allow us to continue the conversation. In terms of today, how we kind of take a look at this relationship today, how we see these same questions, I think that we have more of a comfort with, ironically, that lack of knowledge, or that place in between. Whereas I think in previous generations, there's been this understanding of we have to get to an answer, or at least in the more modern era, and that I think is largely influenced by the influx of science and academics saying there is a way to get to an answer here, that they felt like they were charging forward to that particular answer. I think today we're much more comfortable saying, I'm not sure. This speaks to me in this way, and this speaks to me in this way, and I don't have an answer. And in some ways, that's very fulfilling or very nurturing. It's very, it feeds me in a very deep way. I think that is different than in the past. I think in the past there was, there was a discomfort with a lack of knowing, or a lack of certainty. I think today we look at it, and we might look at it in the same way that we look at a number of different things. Some people might use the term postmodern, saying that there's not a single answer to this. It doesn't mean that these answers are not correct, or that they don't have an important bearing on the question, but quite simply, they refuse to give a single answer to that. So I know that's a bit vague, but we are talking about God. So
Exactly, right.
yeah.
So in the midst of that uncertainty, and if it's timeless postmodernism, like as you look at the sort of the aspects of our tradition that do sort of continue to be that foundational principle, like how would you give voice to sort of the core elements that help anchor you, not only when you're thinking about sort of prayer or commandments or adonai, but like just as how you want to be and who you want to be in this world?
Oh, so me personally, or Jewishly? Well, so you're making me think of the question: what must a Jew believe? Right?
Mm.
Is there? And I know that I have a colleague that says there are, I think, 12 different things, and as long as you have 7 of these things, you're, or I should say 5 of these things, you're Jewish, and your 5 might not overlap with another person's 5. Right? That those are the things that put us in that. In terms of, for me, what I think is at the core, the things that are, another word I might use is inalienably Jewish, or that the things that are anchors in this Jewish tradition. I would say, with the caveat that it is a conversation that we have collectively, that no one person is able to really dictate or even necessarily determine. And so I'm offering this more as a reflection than anything else. That at the core are our texts, our stories, the tradition of offering and sharing the ideas and rituals that bring our stories to life. That is a core element. That communal and community is a core element. That we must have 10 people to offer a blessing. Okay, you can do these blessings without 10 people, right? But the point is that it is so important to us to be together that we insist on having a minyan, right? And the questioning, that we are a people that revels in questions. We don't look at questions as a means to an end, but rather as something that is an end in and of itself. We love the questions. We love the wondering. And so if I were to try to answer, I would say those anchors are our textual tradition, our sense of being together, our community, and our wonderment, the way we ask questions, and the way that we look at this world with a sense of awe, that comes from us being able to think about it, wonder about it, and ask questions.
I know I speak for many in our congregation how grateful we are that you have come to Temple Israel to join us in that community together, exploring the uncertainty, exploring the questions, prompting them, and engaging in that kind of that holy work. So thank you in advance for all you have done, will do, and continue to do.
Bill, it's truly a joy, truly a pleasure. Thank you for wondering, for bringing these questions and wondering with me, and thank you for taking the time and being a part of this community, this project, this beautiful place that I am beginning to call home. My language has changed to us, so it is an absolute joy. Bill, thank you, and thank you for joining us for this week's installment of Ask Rabbi Fox. We invite, if you are interested, to be in touch with the transition team, to join us for a question. Looking forward to many more questions together. Bill, thank you.